Hello and welcome to another podcast of Blether with Barbera and me, your host, Brian. I'm really privileged today. I've got an amazing guest that has approached us and wishes to be on our podcast, and I'm humbled and honoured to have Dr. Robb Kelly. So welcome, Dr. Robb Kelly. I want to let you introduce yourself first and foremost. So we get into questions. I do this with all my guests because I think it best comes from you, who you are, what you're about, why we're here talking today, what's your mission, etc. So introduce yourself, Robb, if you don't mind.
Thanks, Brian. My name is Dr. Robb Kelly over in San Antonio, Texas. But as you can tell by the accent, I'm from over there, from a little place called Manchester. They have a couple of low-profile football teams over there. I came to America about 20 years ago, and I came for 3 weeks only, guys, because I was doing a talk. And I must admit, coming from rainy Manchester to sunny Texas, I decided to stay. Today, I am a psychologist. I'm a behavioral scientist. I'm a neuroscience expert. And we treat addiction, we treat alcoholism, depression, Alzheimer's, anxiety, childhood trauma. We have lots of software and tools that we use. We deal with high-profile people most of the time. And we're just living the dream, man, over here. We're doing what we love because we love what we do. And I love programs like this because it helps us reach a different audience. You see, even though people look at me now, either TV or they read something about me, they don't know, like you already, Brian, like it's just two Northern guys. And it'll always be, as part of me, my feet will always be in the trenches. So, I can help people back home, but I just can't live there anymore. I've kind of moved on. So here we are today. If we say a couple of things that you like, guys, let us know, because that's the deal today. If I can save a life or change somebody's mind today, then job done. And I'll be very, very happy.
Fantastic. Thanks for that, Robb. That's fantastic. Just on the fact that you mentioned where you've come from and where you've got to at the moment. So you're sort of doing a bit of digging on you. You've obviously got a background playing bass guitar sessions, and you've played with Elton John, Bowie, Queen. So how did someone with that life end up homeless?
Well, we grew up on the council estate. For those guys in America, the project, very low income house. We had to obviously get some money from the government to live. It was hard, back in my day, you had to fight. If you wasn't a fighter, then you don't survive on where I was growing up, just outside Manchester, a place called Sale. So I come from humble beginnings, but tough beginnings. And I was lucky enough to go through school okay. And then I was playing in bands. I was on stage at the age of 9. My auntie and uncle were playing the pubs and clubs, so they let me join. I was 9, 10 years old. And that's where I took my first drink, Liverpool Irish Centre, which I love saying now on brace programs. Because you go, oh, yeah, I know Liverpool. Over here, they go, I don't know Liverpool. It's where the Beatles are from. Oh, okay, yeah. I love British shows because my voice is still back in the day. So, yeah, I mean, I have one of them brains that are either all in or all out. It's part of alcoholism that I suffered from and eventually lost everything, including children. I wanted to get out of the racecourse estate. I wanted to do something different. So when I finally become homeless, I'd done a lot of things, again, all or nothing. I remember getting an audition at Abbey Road. I played in Strawberry Studios first. So any musicians out there, you'll get this. We packed $2,000 worth of equipment into a $500 car to travel 6 hours to get $10 each to play. That's just the way music is. We do it for the love of it. But one of my friends one day said, can you cover for me? And I'm like, yeah, what band? He said, no, I'll do studio work. I knew what studio work was. I'd never done it. I went down, and now we're getting paid, let's say, £20 each for 6 or 7 hours by the time, the traveling and stuff, which was good money back then. So he said, can you join? I said, yeah. So I goes in this Strawberry Studios owned by 10cc. And I sits down in the studio, got my headphones on, a click track ready, and they put 3 pieces of music in front of me. And they go, first, second, and third, you ready? I said, yeah, okay, click track 2, 3. And I played the bass, sight read, second one, first one, third one. I was done in I want to say it was something like 19 minutes. I was on the way out. And on the way out, he gave me an envelope. He said, there's your money for today. Thank you so much. If you ever want to come back. I said, well, I got a band and stuff, So I went outside and I opened the envelope and there was something like £200 in there. And I'm like, holy shit. So I turned around and I'm like, I want to do session work. So that's where it started. And then I looked at, so again, all or nothing. I either do something or I don't. And the road came up and I had about 9 or 10 auditions for that. with seasoned pros. But yeah, I
Mm.
got the job. And the mentality at the time was, I was so nervous at my first one. I had one beer before I went in. And I
Mm.
passed that one, and they called me up, got back on the train. I had 2 beers before. I had about 9 or 10 beers before I went in for the final audition and passed it. So that was kind of my check mark, is when I drink, I'm amazing. And that's
Right.
how it
I
started.
get that. Yeah, I get that completely. So you've gone, obviously, I mean, what an illustrious start to your sort of life, really. I know it wasn't as a child, but your early starts. And I get the early drinking because I'm Council Estates at
Yeah.
Derby and Joan on the Saturday nights.
Yeah.
You might have had a different term for it, but in Yorkshire, it's Derby and Joan Club, working men's. And, it's all right. He's 9, he can have a pint.
Yeah.
And you get the taste of it, especially bitter in those days. It was dead
Yes.
sweet. So obviously that led with your brain as well, all or nothing. I'm very much an all or nothing in I don't do half measures. If I don't think it's going to be great, I don't do that. So is that from where you could have been? Is that the brain mentality that you were at the time that led to obviously the downfall of yourself into that, just a temporary downfall, obviously?
Yeah.
But is that what it was, or was it the alcohol on its own, or was it other things?
Alcohol stripped me of everything. So I was doing well. I started my own company. I was still doing session work. We had 2 little girls, aged 1 and 3. Then it all collapsed on me. I remember stabbing my wife 3 times one night because she wouldn't let me finish a bottle of vodka. I mean, it had gone that low. There was a big centre that opened near us, and we took the little girls, 1, 3, 2, and 4 around that age. And I got there and I went out to get some alcohol real quick. And one of the security guards says, "Oh, no, we don't have alcohol in these, the premises." So I had to drive like 4 miles to get alcohol and get back again, left the kids in there. So just crazy stuff that happened. And then I thought marriage would save me. Well, I'd cut back on drinking. So all these terrible things happened. And then the downfall came. And I'd been to college by now. And the downfall came. And it was horrific. I mean, I died twice on the streets. I couldn't live. And they brought me back to life. And an ambulance man brought me back to life, which I was so pissed at. So when I did finally get off the streets, I was angry, first of all, because nobody could tell me what I was suffering from. So we knew it wasn't, or I did, it wasn't a control thing. It wasn't a weakness thing. It was something in the brain that happened. And that's what we're known for across the world is the neuroscience pertaining to that. But I kind of had an attitude like, I'm going to do this. What if it doesn't happen? It's like, what's the worst can happen? I signed a deal 4 or 5 years ago in Dallas, Texas for $1 million for offices. And my friend said, on a serious day, he said, "Right, I don't know you're going to sleep at night, man." I said, what can they do to me that I haven't already done to myself? What? You're going to take the office of me? I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
And as the years gone by, I got to a point in my life where it's like, I really don't give a shit what anybody thinks about me. And it's okay, people saying that, but actually being in that spot, like I'm down to 2 haters now, I think. But you get your haters, look at him, who's thinking he is. And most of them I employ, by the way, but I don't care. You're in your mom's bedroom sending me a message on Facebook. You're through your 4th divorce. The kids don't want to see you. Yeah. And I'm sat with $200 million in the bank and you're fucking telling me what to do? Stop it already.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but it's just a nice place to be now. But I am 65. It took me a long time to learn that. Only 12 months ago did I start caring what people thought about me, and now I'm going through another sort of change. It's like I'm coming to kind of retirement time. And I've started to get rid of the material stuff around me that I thought was important throughout my life. Well, you can understand, coming from the council estates. I wanted to prove to you that I'm worthy and I'm important and I'm wealthy. And if you knew that, you would treat me different to the actual Rob. It's crazy that I went through all that. Like I say, over the last 12 months, and I don't need to drive a X. I'm just kind of turning back. And we give 25% of our income, and we're a multi-million-dollar company, back into the streets of Manchester, Glasgow, London, America, Texas. We give it back. What am I going to do with all that money? Are you kidding me?
No. And, thanks. I love the candidness. And I think it's very telling about you as a survivor. I've gone through the whole victim survivor process myself through countless years of therapy. But I'd see that despite, and you can hear in your voice, and I can see from obviously what you're telling, and from that area as well, I've witnessed domestic violence and in the home, and I've seen some terrible stuff, and some terrible stuff happen to me. And I know it's dark, but what you are showing to me already, and this is where I think I'm at nearly, is you can look back at all that stuff and go, oh God, that's awful, can't you?
Yeah.
And this is it's made me who I am today, but
Yeah.
not in a good way. Or you can go, okay, that is awful, but what have I learned from that stuff that I've gone through? And then it makes you the better person. And whether it takes you to 65 or 50 or 30, it is you as a person at the time, but sometimes you can't be that person at that time, can you? You have to go through that to come out the other end. Is that what you feel for yourself? And then ultimately, is that what led you to where you are now with your company and your sort of PhD?
Yeah, it was. It was a case of, when I look back now, the homelessness, the loss of the children, everything, the loneliness, everything I went through on the streets, the violence. I look back now, and I call that part of my life a semester at Harvard University, because
Right.
it's become my greatest asset going forward. Because when you sat in front of someone who's dying of untreated alcoholism, and you spent 7 years at college, but you've never really been an alcoholic, or you go home, the guy's not for you. But when I sit there and they go, you don't understand, Dr. Robb, check. All of them been checked. So people are astonished when they come, and I can connect with them and go, oh, yeah, I know exactly how do you know? Well, I lost my kids for 30 years and it's great stuff. So 100% would I go back and do it all over again? I really would, because again, I'm a great believer. Now, if you're a heart doctor, great. But if you're addiction, alcoholism, all the stuff we deal with, childhood trauma, unless you've been through it, you can't help anyone. You think you can with all, so I have a therapist myself once a month, and we tried 3 therapists out for me, but we went under my proper name, which is Robert Anthony Kelly, is my birth name. So make sure that they did not have heard of me, because everyone knows who I am in the industry. And I walked in the first one, he's a nice gentleman in a suit. I just said to him, hey, I'm a recovered alcoholic. I don't tag myself anymore, but have you been through addiction? And he said, no. And I got up to leave. And where are you going? I said, well, I don't think you can help me. And he proudly looked at his wall like mine and said, well, I've been studying addiction for 10 years and I've been to university. And he says, there's no way can I not help you? And I said, okay, well, here's a scenario. You have a bottle of vodka behind your back and you won't give it to me. What do you think I'm going to do? And he said, well, you'll probably shout at me and ask me to give it to you. I said, no, I'm going to stab you in the face repeatedly until you bleed out, and then I'm going to take my bottle back. Well, he freaked out, Brian. He's like, oh, you can't say, I'm going to call the police. And then the second one was the same. And the third one I went into, an old hippie. She must have been in her 70s. She sit down. She said, sit down. I said, let me ask you a question. I went through the same scenario. If you had a bottle of vodka, what do you think I'd do? And then she said, uncannily, well, before you did anything, I'll stab you in the face so I could drink it myself. And I'm like, oh, you're my girl. You're the person I need to see, So all that is really important in my life, just because it's what we do. We have a 98% success rate, unheard of, with over 11,000 patients. Everybody comes to us. So yeah, it's really important that you
have to have that connection, don't you? Definitely have to have a connection. And I can see where that comes from, because I've had numerous therapists over the years. I've never had to go through the whole, well, you're not good for me thing.
Yeah.
Luckily, somehow I've managed to look on all of those therapists, and the private one I pay for now once a month is just gold. You need that, I think, because there is a lot of therapists out there and psychologists and
they're terrible over here. They're terrible. So I get people coming to me and they go, okay, so Dr. Robb, when will I see a difference? I said, in about 59 minutes time. They go, what? This is my first session. How long have you been seeing your therapist? They go, well, 10 years. And, well, just what the hell is he doing? Now, if you want to go there once a month and piss and moan like I do with mine, brilliant. But if you're still waiting to get healed, we get all people in all the time. And this is how the conversation goes, bro. So, Mrs. Smith, you suffer from depression? God, yeah, massive depression. Well, how long's that been going on? About 5 years. Oh my God, Mrs. Smith, I'm so sorry. Do you take any medication for that? Yes. What do you take? I take Wellbutrin. Okay. How long have you been taking the Wellbutrin? About 3 years. When the hell did you think it's going to kick in? Why do you continue to take the medication and you're still depressed? We get it all the time. We're like, if we can cure addiction. We can cure, depression, can't cure alcoholism. It's a different beast completely. But everything you go from psychologically, mentally, there's a cure for it. But the pharmaceutical companies don't want you to know that. So it's big in America, where the food industry gets you sick and the pharmaceutical companies keep you sick. And that's unfortunately the way it goes.
No, And you know, I'm so glad you brought up points. And I don't know if you've seen my podcast. Obviously, I've worked in medical law for 8 years before this, and I've got prostate cancer. And they wanted to, once I'd had it removed, the whole trial of side effects. Try this, try this, try this. And I got in two drugs in, and then the last drug was steroids. And I said, I'm not going on steroids. There's got to be another way to do this. And so I went CBD oil. And ever since I started taking CBD oil and then realised that there is another way to deal with health matters, whether it's psychological or physiological health issues, I've looked on things completely differently. So I'm not against people going to the GP and being given citalopram.
Yeah.
Yeah. If that's to mood stabilize. But what I'm against is people just being given citalopram for years.
Yeah.
Because I totally get that most problems, such as addiction, well, it was for me. I don't know. You're the expert, so you're correct. But for me, the addiction came out of trauma. And trauma is the thing that you need to talk through. Because if you don't talk through trauma and you don't find coping mechanisms for the bad behaviors that you learnt to cope with trauma, then you'll never get by in life. And that's how I am here now. I've got to that point where I've gone, right, okay, well, these are the coping mechanisms I've got. But I'm glad you brought that up. I've got nothing against healthcare, and I've got nothing against pharmaceutical medicine per se. I think at the moment, the healthcare systems in the Western world, especially in this country, have got a grip over everybody's health.
Yeah,
and
everybody.
We need to take it back to go, right, well, I'm going to manage my own health, and I'm going to go get that from whether it's you, whether it's listening to my podcast, whether it's going and getting the bottle of CBD oil from a provider, whatever it is. Yeah, but I'm glad you brought that up.
Well, I'm big on that. There's a company called Purdue Pharmaceuticals, and they did all the bad stuff, all the oxycodone and stuff. I went head to head with them on a national TV program over there with 20 million viewers. And the very next day, they filed for bankruptcy. Now, I'm not saying it was just because of me, because there were a lot of things going on. But yeah, I don't have any time for those guys. So when we come to look like depression and stuff and addiction, childhood trauma is the gateway drug. That's it. End of story, end of conversation. But people today still want to go back and go, well, I've never been in a car crash. We're not talking about that. We're not talking about divorces. We're talking about the stuff that they normalized back in the day. That's the stuff that you're carrying around. And sometimes, well, most of the time, you don't know you're carrying it, but your actions, your words, your environment, your behavior is not as it should be. It's less than. We're never tall enough, blonde enough, rich enough, or thin enough. We don't think we're good enough. We're the imposter syndrome all the time. Relationships stuff. I can't keep a job. That all goes back to childhood trauma. You go, well, sure, we've studied childhood trauma in depth. So there's two things. There's two things, guys, that cause every single illness and disease in the human body. Don't let anybody tell you different. Toxicity and deficiency. What am I being poisoned by? Obviously by the pharmacy, but most about the grocery stores and stuff like that. And what am I deficient in? You see, a lot of people will say this. We've had it time and time again when they don't understand. I have heart problems, doctor. I'm so sorry. I caught it off my dad. It's hereditary. Well, let me stop you there, first of all. That's a biologically impossible answer you just told me. But God bless you. Here's what's happening. So we got to look at deficiency in the human body, which causes everything. When I eat food, it's not used in the source that I eat it. It has to be methylated into a source that the human body can use. But here's the deal. 90% of supermarket groceries right now, you can't methylate with all the fake food and everything. So let's say my interstaple home, ours was beans. Sent a can or whatever. We always have beans every night. So let's say my dad got heart problems because he can't methylate a food or protein. So there becomes a deficiency. The deficiency causes the illness. I leave house, I get a place of my own. I end up having heart problems because I'm on the staple diet that my dad was on through my mom. So now I'm having beans every night and I can't methylate it. So the deficiency causes my heart problems. And we want to say, hey, no, that is wrong. We've got to find out what you can't, what are you deficient in and what's poisoning you? That's it. That is two. And oxygen, of course. The presence of oxygen equals a lack of disease. But people don't believe me.
No, I have been banging your drum for the last 12 years. I found out I was dairy intolerant, among some other weird foods. But up to that point, so I would have been 40, I spent decades being told I had irritable bowel syndrome.
Yeah.
Because of obviously the effects. Eventually, this diagnosis came. Brilliant. And found out I wasn't. Stopped eating dairy. And I haven't eaten dairy since, really. Occasionally. But once I'd stopped that, it wasn't just the instant physiological issues that I could see were stopping. So the bloating, diarrhea, constipation, etc. But dental problems, skin problems, neurological pain, unexplained problems, and mental health.
Big sufferer. Yeah.
Because food is just that thing you put in your mouth, doesn't it? Breakfast, dinner, tea, supper. But we forget that is fuel. And if you put petrol in a diesel engine, it's going to stop working.
Exactly.
It's going to splutter. But we don't see that when I take to people and go, well, and they just said, but it's only a bit of diarrhea. I said, but it's not that.
No.
It could take weeks for me to get over an intake of dairy. The body's all out of kilter. My brain's all over the place. I don't know what I'm doing. So completely with you. Toxicity. And then also if you're addicted to some sort of substance, then you're going to poison your body even more, really, aren't you?
We trace food to addiction. We trace food to illnesses. We trace food to all sorts of stuff. So the food that we eat is crap. If you're picking up anything from the store and you turn it around, look on the back, if any of the first 4 ingredients include canola oil, sunflower oil, rancid oils, put it back. We can't methylate that stuff. It's poison. Lots of ice cream out here from big companies can't call it ice cream because you can stick it outside in the sun and never melt. McDonald's fries in England have 4 ingredients in it. In America, they have 27 ingredients in it.
What?
You get a loaf of bread and you put it on the side and you can leave it for 2 or 3 weeks. It's just great. Go back in. I get my bread from England. I get Warburton's bread. You leave that boy outside, out on the counter for like 2 or 3 days. It's going moldy. So the stuff that we're eating is not real food. Like McDonald's, they have the best beef burgers. Let's look at that sensibly. So McDonald's, they say, sell 4 million beef burgers a day. Imagine that over a year. There isn't enough cows on the planet to provide for McDonald's. So what the hell is in that? But nobody cares. It's a cheap meal. They get by. This is the way it is. And me and Gary Brecker and a bunch of other guys are going, you know something? No, we're not having that. And I got slated, Brian. They took my license off me to practice. Took me 6-7 months to get it back. I lectured to those guys today, which is weird. But they fight against us all the time. And then we come out the other end. I get my first big movie star to work with. And then he gets well and people start to listen. But it's been an uphill battle all the time with me over here of convincing people that you're dying, but you don't know you're dying.